been 12 years since a new album from Stained. We just got it. What do you think? Let's talk about it. All right. 2011 self-titled Stained album was the last time these guys put an album out, and with the latest release, Confessions of the Fallen, I personally think that they knocked it out of the park. We'll dive into a couple of different things here. Um, Overall, I mean, it's probably too early to give this statement, based on the fact that this is a review video. But dude, I can't stop playing this album. Like, it is so good on a number of different levels. Now, I'm a '90s kid, so I came up, during the time that Dysfunction came out, and the subsequent albums, and everything that was going around in the music scene at that time that just really made Stain special during that time. Like, I feel like they've recaptured a lot of that energy. And that's not to say that the musicality and the different musical elements that they put in this album are part and parcel to what happened in Dysfunction, but it feels like a band that is grown or has grown, um, but hasn't lost a step in what makes them great. And that's why, I, for whatever reason, maybe it's that, maybe it's, well, let me back up. It's a lot of different reasons, but I really appreciate what these guys did and were able to do to recapture some of that magic that felt like it was starting in the self-titled, and then I think really fully kind of came to fruition with Confessions of the Fallen. Now, this album's 10 tracks, and the runtime's 35 minutes. So for me, I felt like I needed to hear more, to be honest. Like, when I went through the first run through of it, it ended, and I wasn't paying attention to where we were in the track. Just had it going and was just rocking out to it, and then it was done, and it was this really long silence, and I'm looking around, going, "Wait, that's the album?" And that's honestly the kind of feeling you want in any album. 35 minutes might seem, short to some for a 10 album track, or excuse me, a 10 album record. But I mean, I don't think it lost anything by being perceptively shorter than what most might think it needed to be, especially when you've got so much going on in all of the tracks. Now, you've got some of the singles that are out right now, Lowest and Me, Here and Now, In This Condition, all of which are great tracks. And they it's crazy that a band that's been around this long and has taken this long to put out a new album has, in my opinion, so many tracks on it that could be singles. I mean, honestly, there's probably not one on this album that couldn't be one, and couldn't, top 10 on the charts, at any given week. So bang up job to these guys on this album. Some of the things that really kind of stood out to me is I really like how Aaron Lewis just has this way about bobbing and weaving outside in and out of lamentation and hope. And it's just, for somebody like myself who, has suffered in the past with some, bipolar depression and all this kind of stuff, this kind of back and forth speaks to me. It resonates with me on a very base psychological level that I've always appreciated in his writing. And to see that it's not lost a step at all, and not only that, it it just seems to get better and better. And with songs like, Lois and Me, and specifically Cycle of Hurting, like, it really shines. It really does shine. And I think that whether he knows it or not, Aaron Lewis is a mouthpiece for a lot of us that still feel a lot of what he's talking about, even if he's, in some cases he may be pulling from the well at this point. I don't know, but there are still times when I'm in these moments, and it's easy to go from one extreme to another in terms of the music that you're listening to kind of encapsulate that feeling, to try to find some connection with a certain essence of a song or a band or sound. And the thing that I love about the way Stain presents it, with the musicality, with the lyrics, with the presentation all around, is that it's extraordinarily accessible on many different levels to get into that headspace. And that's not something that you get, you can't do that in a lot of metal albums. So being able to still be aggressive but still have these, this very visual play on how one sees oneself, and all the different facets of that is very comforting. And you don't I personally don't get into a lot of bands that have a great ability to do that. There's a few that are out there. Stained is definitely one of, at least for me, one of the precursors to all the other bands that I've listened to that have tried that space, and maybe tried and failed, I don't know, but don't quite do it the way that Stained does. And Johnny and Mike have not lost a beat either. I mean, the sound quality, the production value of everything that's going into this album is phenomenal. Those guys, I know that it has been a while, so it's it may seem like, oh God, these guys haven't done an album in 12 years. Maybe it's not gonna they're not gonna gel as well, because everybody's been kind of doing their own thing. Aaron's been doing his solo stuff. Mike was in Saint Asonia. And Johnny, I don't honestly, I don't know what Johnny's been doing other than collecting whiskey bottles, but he's a collector of whiskey bottles. For those of you that don't know, I'm not saying he's a drunk. I'm saying that the guy's fascinated with that, and all of the more power to him. But I don't know if he's been doing any musical work, in the last 12 years since the last album. So there's that. Internet trolls, stay away. Um, but yeah, overall, man, like if you have not listened to this album, you need to, especially if you're a fan of Stained, and specifically the earlier work. Again, Dysfunction being probably the closest overall to how this album kind of made me feel about their discography. Like, where does this really fit in? I loved the self-titled album. I thought it was great. I thought that there were a couple of songs on there that were a little iffy, but to see them kind of bounce back into this album and do what they're doing is, I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times I've listened to this album since it's come out. And I've digressed in putting out a review video for it. Not eh, for no other reason than it's it's been a little difficult to kind of put into words how this album makes me feel, because of all the feels. Like, there's just so much here. You start out really aggressive, with Lowest and Me, and it does a great job of kind of balancing between the clean and the rough vocal, which was great to feel that right off the bat. You know, it could have gone a different way. We could have started like the way that some of the other albums have, where it's just sort of a steady. There's some aggression in some of those albums, but it's really kind of taking a back seat, where I'm feeling like in this one, they hit you up front and just keep going the rest of the way, which is absolutely fantastic. Exactly what I would want in a Stained album. In This Condition, if you haven't heard the single yet, again, awesome track. Um, again, it just amazes me lyrically how Aaron can go from, you know, hopelessness to hope in the same song, and be able to just paint that visual picture of what's going on in somebody's head. And this could, I mean, that's maybe that's it. Maybe it's that I relate so much to that back and forth, the inner struggle that one goes through when either dealing with people or dealing with oneself. And he has a way of articulating it and putting it down on paper, and then ultimately, through the music, in a way that really resonates for me, and I would assume for a lot of people that don't have the ability to articulate quite the way that he does. Here and now, that song is just a insta hit. Like it's classic Stain in the best form, at least commercially, which is again not a bad thing. Commercial, whatever. You say what you want about, a commercial viability of a song, but that song has wide appeal, and for good reason. It's got all the elements that make a hit Stained song. And again, it's a great track. I gotta say though, Cycle of Hurting is probably the one that resonates with me the most. And again, it goes back to being able to connect some dots between how I felt in the past, how sometimes I need to feel in order to kind of reconcile my emotions or reconcile my state of mind at a particular time. But all my faults are all my fault, dude. Like I get that, like, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. And but just to have a musical accompaniment to that idea and that moment is uh and the way that they do it is just great. And that tracks towards the end of the album, kind of middle back part of the album. And the last what 4 songs of the album are still great as well. Better Days is that sad hope, the way that only Aaron can deliver it. I would love to know who wrote the riff for that song and who brought that one to the table, because I mean it's just a really really good song. And it leads into Hate Me Too, which is like you have the sad hope and then you go right back into the self-immolation, which again that sort of journey that they take you on is a tried and true methodology for the band, and it works really well in this context and on this album. Um, Overall, like for me, this album's probably an 8.5 out of 10. Easily in my top 5 albums of the year thus far. And maybe I need to be listening to more music. That's it's open to interpretation. If you have something that you think I should check out that might blow Stain's album out of the water in that top 5, please let me know, and I'll definitely check it out. Right now, my big two've got to be Stain, Confessions of the Fallen, and Sleep Tokens, Take Me Back to Eden. Like those 2 albums have been played relentlessly over the last months and weeks, respectively. So there you go. You know, did they put out a great album? Absolutely. I believe that they did. I think that anybody that grew up, in that late '90s, early aughts time frame, listening to Stained will be very, very happy with what they put out with Confessions of the Fallen, and will probably do what I did, which is just play it back to back for hours on end, just to be nostalgic and just to feel all the feels that album kind of puts you through. So there you go. Hope you check it out. If you do, let me know in the comments below what you think. And as I said, if there's an album that you think I should check out, please let me know that too. Like, subscribe. Talk to you later.